I just got blown up in the face.
Welcome to BM Sculptures. There is a lot to unpack in this video, so let's jump right in and start milling up some lumber.
Hold up. I spent the last couple days milling up all this lumber, and I woke up this morning and I had an epiphany, and I think I need to scrap everything that I just did.
You see, almost all of my previous sculptures use this vertical wood orientation, and it creates a really cool look, but I like switching things up, and that's what I want to do on this one. I want to take big blocks of different species of wood like you see here, and I want to combine them into a way that I haven't ever done before. Before long, I had all my blocks ready to go, and now it was time to arrange them how I wanted and then get them ready for a glue up. This turned out to take a lot longer than originally anticipated because all these pieces of wood were different sizes, meaning I had to put a clamp on every single angle possible. I ended up having to do each layer in multiple glue ups, which basically doubled my time as my previous method. One of the downsides to using Buckeye Burl is there's a lot of natural voids in it, meaning I have to pre-fill every single one before doing the main glue up. Before long, I had all my layers ready to rock, and it was time to glue them up. Finished up the top of this sculpture by strategically placing different shaped blocks, and this is going to be where the wolf's head is, so I had to really think about where the features of the head were, like the ears and the cheeks, because each one of these pieces was going to fill up one of those areas. I coated everything with a thick coat of epoxy, and while that cures, let's address all the lumber that I started this video with. Ever since I started doing these wood and epoxy sculptures, I've had big cutoffs from every single piece. I've been saving those for years for an opportunity just like this. Here you see a cutoff from the whale sculpture. I have a cutoff from my bear sculpture. This is the second sculpture I ever created. And here is the swan sculpture, one of my favorite sculptures to date. And I have all of these pieces that I've saved, and now I'm ready to put them to work. I start off by gluing up all the pieces that you saw at the very beginning of this video. I don't want anything to go to waste, and these ones are really, really good pieces of wood, and they can definitely be used for this project. I then bring all my sculpture cutoffs to the bandsaw and have a little hiccup here. I just broke a 3/4 inch blade. I still don't know how. It seems like my finger went to that fence and moved it a little bit, but I actually didn't see the fence move, so I still don't know what caused that. But irregardless, I got that changed out, fixed, cut all these, and here we are, and I have a ton of really cool looking pieces of wood. Alright, let's get back to the wolf sculpture. I made this big melamine form, and this will be put in the refrigerator, and like I say in all my videos, if you're interested in why I put these in the refrigerator, it is all for temperature control, and I have a video explaining all of this. Once the wood was placed inside, I made this little wedge here, and all that this is doing is it's taking up space, so I'm not wasting as much of epoxy. I actually don't trust the silicone seams that I put on this, so I'm actually just using spray foam to just take up space. Once that spray foam has had a couple hours to cure, I poured an initial layer of epoxy just to hold everything in place before the big pour, and then this happened.
So I didn't get this on film, but I just got blown up in the face. Check this out. This is all burnt hair. My eyelashes are burnt. My eyebrows are burnt. All of my hair on my hands are completely torched off. This is crazy. My skin is completely fine. Like even my beard is fine. But this got blown up. This is crazy.
Boy, you're lucky you didn't burn your skin.
I know. I don't know how it didn't. It was so fast. Look, it's this whole side too. What do you think, Harp? It smells nice, huh?
I think one of the worst parts of this was that smell. It was so bad and smelled the house and the garage up for weeks. Let me reenact so you guys can see what happened. Let's check this in a different angle. Something like that.
I work with the spray foam all the time and I knew it was flammable. I just didn't consider putting it in the fridge and trapping all that gas in there for when it's curing. If that lid was open on that fridge, this wouldn't have happened. It was all just because it was trapped inside that refrigerator. Okay, now let's get back to the build and the pour.
I just want to say I am very, very lucky that this was only burnt hair, basically. This could have been so much worse, and the lesson learned here is that things that you use all the time, you really have to just pay attention to. I mean, spray foam, again, I use it all the time. I know it's flammable, but when you use something so much, you just forget the dangers of it. So whether you're using a table saw daily or chemicals, just really remember the dangers involved and just try to think about things that you do beforehand. I know I learned my lesson. I am never doing this again. So let's get back to the pour and hopefully we don't have any more mistakes. Now that my main epoxy pour is done, I have around 3 to 5 days to wait for that to fully cure, and this gives me the perfect opportunity to jump back into these end grain cutting boards. And this is probably my favorite part, taking all these really cool pieces of wood, mixing and matching, and creating really one-of-a-kind end grain cutting boards. This is honestly the most woodworking I've ever done fully. I mean, I emptied this bag out in like 2 or 3 days, and I'd normally go months without having to do that. So here we are, flash forward, and I have all these beautifully done and different boards, and now we get to go back to the sculpture and see if it's cured.
What? Are you kidding me?
I quit. So f***ing done with this.
And this is not good. I see right off the bat there's a couple of fractures in there. The epoxy is tinted a deep yellow, which means it got way too hot.
This is beyond frustrating. This is 2.5 weeks worth of work, completely scrapped away, not to mention a ton of money. I need to figure out what's going on. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know that this has kind of been happening on a regular basis now where I haven't had successful pours. And this does not make sense to me because I have poured up to 12 gallons and 10 inches thick in a single pour with this exact same method. So what's going on? The temperatures are the exact same and regulated in the fridge, so it's not the temperature. I am pouring and triple checking my pours. It is not the ratios of hardener that I'm putting in. So I need to figure out something else is going on here and I just can't wrap my head around it. So if any of you guys have some suggestions, please let me know down in the comments. I need some help on this one. All right, so let's go back to square one and start milling up some lumber.
Don't worry, there's a little movie magic here. I'm not gonna make you watch me cutting more wood, but I will show you this dust collector was full after 1 day of work. That's how much milling I did in a single day. Here we are, back to square one. Here is my new glue up, and I am doing all horizontal orientation wood pieces, and then the same kind of mixed blocks on top. On this one, I decided to use a slightly different approach. Instead of putting the entire thing in a big melamine box, I decided to use this thin plastic fiberglass sheeting. That way it could not only regulate temperature better, but I won't have to use as much epoxy. Just when I think things are starting to go my way, I take a look in there and I see a huge problem. No, it is not this hole in my pants. I have a massive leak in this mold. I'm going into absolute crisis mode. I used an entire tub of Flex Seal paste on this on every side. Inside the fridge, I have about a gallon of epoxy that leaked out. I start scooping it up with a cup and pouring it back into the mold. And then once all that was in there, I decided to put the mold back in the refrigerator for the second pour, which was inside the vacuum chamber for about 20 minutes.
Unbelievable. Okay. Yeah, this isn't going as planned. And honestly, it's kind of a weird feeling. I am not like super upset about it at this point. I kind of expected something terrible to happen, and that's exactly what happened. So let me explain what happened this time. I had the first 2 gallons in there, which you just saw leaking out like crazy. The second 2 gallons in this vacuum chamber. It was left in there for probably 20 minutes or so, and when that happens, condensation builds up in this chamber and water will actually drip out of this nozzle right there. That drips out straight into the epoxy. So unknown to me at the time, I take this 2 gallons of epoxy, I pour it back in the mold that is now hopefully sealed and not leaking anymore. But because there is a ton of water in it, it becomes murky and cloudy, and water is just not a friend of epoxy. So I have to pour the entire thing out. So let's go do that.
Oh, and it also turns out there was another leak in that mold which leaked inside the refrigerator. So now there's probably about 2 gallons of epoxy in here.
2. Oh, that's heavy. Come on. Wow. Wow.
All right, there is no more messing around. There will be no leaks on my watch. I put probably another tub of Flex Seal paste on here and then sprayed it with this rubber sealant all around it, and this just looks like a mess. But tell you what, I don't think it can possibly leak after this. So I mixed up another 4 gallons of epoxy, poured it in here, and so far so good. You may be asking yourself, how are you going to pop those bubbles with that foam? Well, don't you guys worry. I took all the precautions to make sure I'm safe. Safety first. Now that that has a couple days to cure, let's go back and see if we can salvage this first pour. I decided to turn these into some more serving boards, and these ones will not be end grain, so they will be more of the serving charcuterie boards for you fancy folks, not the end grain cutting boards, which are meant for actually cutting on. If you want one of these for yourself, wait to the end of the video and I will let you know exactly how to purchase one of these. All right, now that this new mold is at around 5 days to cure with no leaks, let me add, let's open this thing up and see what we're working with. I could not have asked for a better pour. It is crazy to think that after all this mold went through, that this pour turned out so clean. It's beyond amazing that this is looking how it is right now. Now it's time for the moment that I'm sure a lot of you have been waiting for, and why you clicked on this video. Let's get to carving this thing. Here we are after carving all day long, and I have the silhouette pretty much carved out, but this area right here is going to be really, really hard to get into. I can get in at this angle, but really the other angles are going to be really hard to make those feet and those tight turns in there. So it's going to take a lot of very, very precise work. Carving is not as hard as people make it out to be. If you start with two really good reference pictures with proportions that are accurate, it's actually just as easy as carving to the line. So that's still what I've been doing this whole sculpture thus far, is literally just carving to the lines. I'm really happy with how everything's looking so far, but this is the part that I dread with every sculpture, and that is the eyes. The eyes make or break every sculpture. If I'm a little crooked, a little uneven, or just any kind of slight hint of the eyes being off, the sculpture is ruined. This is one of the most difficult parts of every single sculpture, and that's why I always wait to the very end to do it and see if I even want to add eyes. In this case, I definitely wanted to add the eyes, and I think they turned out pretty good. The reference photos I was using had a wolf with a much more open mouth, thus showing its teeth a lot more than what I think this does. My mouth is a lot more closed, and I need to think of a way that I could quickly put some teeth in there and see what it looks like.
Hey, Miles. Hey. Hey, Miles. Give me that.
Thanks, little buddy. Now that I have this Play-Doh, I could just quickly mush in some teeth for reference, and after looking at it, I absolutely hate it. I think this mouth is way too closed to even show teeth, so I'm not adding teeth, but I'm super interested what you guys think. Do you think I should have added teeth on this sculpture? Here's a fun fact for you guys. It actually takes longer for me to sand the sculpture than it did to carve the sculpture up to this point. Kind of wild when you think about that. Now for my very favorite part, and let's be honest, probably every woodworker's favorite part, and that is putting the finish on and seeing what this thing really looks like. If you're interested in what I'm using and all the products and tools that I've used up to this point, check out the description. I will have links to everything that I used.
Believe it or not, filming and editing these videos take almost the same amount of time as it does to create one of these sculptures. And if you like these videos, please consider subscribing. It'll help me out and help my channel out. Thank you guys. Now let's get to the big reveal.
Wondering how I get this beautiful cinematic spin on this sculpture? Well, look no further than a little bit down. Here I am, putting on this amazing spin.
All right, thank you guys for sticking around to the end of this video. I had a blast carving this thing and I love how it turned out. Let me know what you guys think. Now, if you guys want to buy one of these, I have 18 of them available. They will be listed on my website, which is blakemcfarland.com, or go ahead and hit the link down in the description.